This edition of Mac Voices is sponsored by Smile, the makers of world-class software like PDF Pen for Mac, PDF Pen Pro for Mac, PDF Pen for iPhone and iPad, PDF Pen Scan Plus for iPhone and iPad, Text Expander for Mac, and Text Expander for iPhone and iPad. Learn more about all their great products at smilesoftware.com. Welcome to the MacJury on Mac Voices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, it's now a few weeks since the Apple Watch Series 3 came out. Usually we like to do these shows just maybe a week or so in, but it's been a little bit hard to find enough people to talk about the Apple Watch Series 3 because not everybody got them this time around. And it also gave us all a little bit of a chance to play with it and work with it and see if it's worth the upgrade. So we're going to talk about the Apple Watch Series 3. Joining me tonight, first up, is Mr. Mike Schmitz. Mike, it's great to have you. Thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
And by the way, congratulations. You're a new father again, so that's good.
Thank you. Yep. 2 weeks ago.
Wow, that's impressive. And
congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And also joining us, Mr. Steve Sande of Apple World Today. Steve, it's good to see you.
It's great to see you again, Chuck.
Yeah, it's been a while. But I see stuff churning out of Apple World Today constantly, so I know you're busy.
Oh, we're busy, and it's been kind of an interesting summer with a lot of other things going on as well. So I'm going to be glad to get into this fall. I think it's going to calm down a little bit.
That'll work. Guys, I guess I gave it away a little bit. We all have Apple Watch Series 3, and I'm anxious to know what you think of them. But most importantly, though, I wanted to start out by asking why you decided to upgrade and what you were upgrading from. Mike, how about if we start with you?
Sure. So I had an original Apple Watch, 42 millimeter, the Space Gray Sport Edition, and really had no problems with it. I was still using it every single day. I try to work out every weekday and used it to track all my workouts. I even got into running recently, and I've been training for a half marathon. So I've been going for longer runs and never had any issues with it. The battery lasted pretty much all day. I can count on one hand the number of times that I got the power saving mode notification at the end of the day. But I've heard a lot of things about just how much more powerful the Series 3 was. And so I decided that coming from an original Apple Watch, that the gains were going to be significant, and they are. But also, while the tech demo for the LTE version looked really impressive, I could not envision a scenario where I didn't want to have my phone with me. I actually tried Apple's, it seems like they're implicitly recommending that you can use your Apple Watch and your AirPods for just about any workout. I actually tried running with my AirPods. I can't do it. I guess I just sweat way too much, but they fall out of my ears. And so I've got like a running belt that I've carried for years, which allows me to store my phone, and it's very unobtrusive. It's not like the big armband that you actually feel. For the most part, you forget it's there. So carrying my phone when I was working out was never an issue for me. And I suspected that the $10 a month was going to end up being more than $10 a month. And listening to the Accidental Tech podcast and hearing Casey Liss talk about how his true cost was more like 17 something, I just couldn't justify that extra cost for a feature that I couldn't see myself ever using.
Okay, that's good. That's a thorough rundown. Thank you. And there are a number of issues we're going to get into that you commented on. Steve, how about you? Give us a groundwork for your decision.
Well, the device I'm coming from, of course, identical to what Mike had. 42 millimeter, Space Gray, Sport Edition, original, and I've got to say that I was using it every day, same type of thing. Primarily, I'd say the biggest things were just keeping up to date with all the little notifications that come in during the day. For the most part, I just when I'm working, I don't want to dig in my pocket for my phone, and for some reason it's always there and not sitting on my desk, probably because my desk is a mess. But anyway, so I always use the phone for a lot of, or excuse me, the watch for a lot of those notifications. You just glance and go, oh, yeah, okay. Go on and continue doing your work. So different use case. I think I mentioned to you guys before we started the show that my wife is about to retire. And one thing that we have planned as part of her retirement plan is her forcing me and herself to get out more often and do a lot more exercising. I love to walk. I love to hike. And I don't do it as much as I should. But when I do, I love taking the watch along, using that to capture my walks, where I'm going, what I'm doing, how long I've done it, elevation gain, elevation loss, all the rest of that. And I'm kind of on the other side. I don't like having that extra weight of the iPhone when I'm walking around. I don't know why. It just bothers me. Maybe it's because it kind of, banging up against my leg or something like that. But for me, I decided I was going to spend the extra $10 plus service fees and taxes and go with the LTE plan. And I can't say I've used it as much as I thought I would have so far. But when I have used it, it's been absolutely wonderful. It's worked out very well.
So I'll just weigh in so we can have the conversation. I upgraded from the last version of the Apple Watch, same as you gentlemen, but not the Series 0, the space gray sport model. The reason I decided to upgrade it, and I did go for the LTE model, but I have not turned the LTE on. My theory is that I can't add it later. So it's one of those things that if I ever do decide I really want it or need it, I will turn it on. But I may lose a little bit of money along the way, but I'm thinking that should be when I go to sell it at the end of its life or the end of the time it's with me, that I should get, a couple more dollars out of it. So I decided it was better to spend that little bit more because the differential wasn't that much in the grand scheme of things. That's why I decided to do it.
So we've got all three scenarios here.
Yeah, pretty much. And the comment about costing more like $17. I don't know the specifics of Casey's plan or what carrier, but I find it a bit offensive at this point that AT&T wants to charge me $10 to have put my iPad on the plan, another $10 to put my watch on the plan. It's like, come on, guys. Yep. You want to hit me with a $30 service fee to make it the connection the first time? I've got no problem with it. But trying to bleed it out, for every single month, nah. Again, maybe I'll turn it on. Maybe I'll find I need it. But Steve, I'm sort of in your camp, Mike. That I can't see too many places and times that my phone won't be with me that my watch would. Maybe if I'm out, waterboarding in the middle of that lake, like we saw, okay, maybe
surfing.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah.
Am I the only one who finds the use case that they keep showing on ads to be a little weird? The people out there surfing and answering a phone call. How many people do that in reality?
Well, Steve, Come on. Advertising is not reality.
There is a commercial which I have long used to show Samsung's approach versus Apple's approach, because Samsung, in my opinion, has a very good job of implementing technical features, but they don't do a great job of thinking about the use case. So if you were to go to Google right now and search for worst commercial ever, Galaxy Gear, you will see an absolutely ridiculous smartwatch commercial about this guy who's using it on a ski trip. And that's the kind of thing that the Apple Watch use cases, to your point, Steve, kind of remind me of. It's like, I guess maybe that's kind of cool, but that's kind of ridiculous too. And that's not my life.
Yeah. Perhaps there is a little bit of that, they think that people are going to watch this and they're going to see somebody doing some activity that they've always wanted to do. And they go, man, if I get that Apple Watch Series 3, I'm going to be able to go out, and be on the, what are those things called? You remember the woman in the keynote who was standing out there in the middle of the lake?
The paddleboard?
Yeah.
Paddleboard. Thank you.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know. I've never used one, but it was.
I'm too scared to go out in the middle of the lake on one of those.
Yeah.
Well, I have to laugh because you notice she didn't move much. I kind of get the feeling she was a little new to paddleboarding.
I'm not sure you do move a whole lot on a paddleboard, Steve, but that's a whole nother discussion. Yeah, the discussion of advertising is interesting because you're right. We're all being sold on, the idea that this is our constant companion and you can do everything with it. And I feel like I use it in a limited fashion, although I am using it for more things as I become more familiar with it, and definitely since watchOS 4 is out now. But it's, I still reach for the phone for most things. But one of the killer features for me, one of the reasons I wanted to get it and did get it, was now that Siri can talk to you.
Yep.
And
yeah, definitely.
That is that to me is the reason to upgrade, because now if I'm driving and I dictate a reminder to myself or something, I don't have to look down and see. First of all, I think she's more accurate and more attentive. And I don't know if that's the new watch or watchOS 4, because for me they were pretty much concurrent. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. She reads back to me what she's reminding me of, and that's it. That's just terrific.
Yeah, I think it's probably a combination. I think that there's definitely an improvement in the software, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was hardware improvements too that picked up your voice better and canceled out some of that background noise. And I think what you were talking about, Chuck, was that like with the LTE, like Apple is really trying to sell a killer use case for this, but it's not resonating with me personally. It doesn't sound like it's resonating with you. And I think that you can't manufacture that from a marketing perspective. You have to get it out in the hands of people who are going to use it, and they're going to develop a use case where this thing is just absolutely incredible. And I'm sure that is going to happen at some point. But for me, kind of the message they're telling you is that, well, you don't need to have your phone and you can still get your notifications. The very first thing I tell people from a productivity perspective is turn off your notifications, at least as much as you can, because it's an open door for literally anybody to interrupt you at any given time. And what you really want to do is you want to get it to the point where your notifications are all things that you really want to be notified of. But actually, that's the article that I wrote on Asian deficiency with the first Apple Watch. That was my advice, was like, this thing is great, but it's also a slippery slope, because now you can get your notifications literally anytime. Yeah, you don't have to look at your phone. The bad part is you don't have to look at your phone.
Yeah, but isn't some of that true of the phone itself? When it came out, I mean, it'd be great to know if there's a storm coming, and if I have a new coupon from Staples, and whatever, and you very quickly find that, okay, this is not exactly what I thought I was signing up for, and I need to have some restraint.
Yep, exactly it. And to be honest, I almost went your route, by the way, and got the LTE watch and just wasn't going to update it, because I believe that there are hardware upgrades available in that, not just the antenna, which is kind of amazing that they were able to fit that antenna in there without making it really any thicker. But I believe there's a 16 gig hard drive as well as an 8 gig. So I think your point where if you're ever going to resell it, you get more for it, I believe that's 100% true.
Yeah. Yeah. And, that was just my theory. But Steve, you were one of the ones that said, you like getting your notifications because your phone is not always on your desk; it's in your watch, or pardon me, it's not always on your desk; it's in your pocket. How do you feel about Mike's advice to turn off all the notifications? Have you trimmed them down to the point that you really have what you need?
Exactly. I mean, over the years, I think we've all gotten into it, and you described it perfectly, Mike. When we first got our phones, we thought, oh, great, I can get notifications from this app. And after a while, you're saying, do I really need to know that this particular brewery has just uncorked a nice barrel of some new beer. I really don't need to know that, even though Untapped will tell me about that. So, after a while, I just went through and I said, God, I'm tired of seeing these notifications. Took it off. One app that I had on my watch for about a year, and I finally just said, enough, was, if I can remember the name of it now, but anyway, it's the one that reminds you to drink water. And I got so tired of getting notifications about that. It's like, I drink water a lot anyway. I live in a very dry climate. So, I feel thirsty, I go get water. I don't need to be reminded 15 times per day. So over the years, I've gradually gotten that toned down, both on the phone and on the watch. And I think I'm kind of in a situation now where only the really important notifications, at least important to me, are the ones that are coming up. But I'd say for me, the biggest change, you talked about Siri, it's just so incredibly better with this watch than it was with the original phone that it's almost scary. One of my favorite things to do, in fact, we did it this evening. We had a nice, big, dry-aged New York strip steak. It was just absolutely terrific, but I grilled it on our grill. And I use Siri to go in and, of course, set a timer. And it used to drive me nuts with the old watch, because half the time I say, oops, I got to cover it up here. Hey Siri, how about setting a timer for 4 minutes? And it would sit there and sit there and sit there and sit there. And then after a minute or so, it would finally come up and, okay, I've set a timer for 4 minutes. And you're saying, well, could you make that 3 minutes now, because you just wasted a minute of my time? This new watch absolutely kicks it. It's just, you say something to it, it's done like that. And it just amazes me that there are only 2 years or 2.5 years between that original model and this, because it just seems like such a different device in terms of the speed, the responsiveness, and having Siri talk to you as well. That's nice.
Steve, you know what? I hadn't even thought about that, but I had the same experience with both of my Apple Watches up to this one. And I really hadn't thought about it being a processor problem. I thought it was a connectivity problem. But now I don't think I've had that. It's one of those things, out of sight, out of mind. Yeah. And you're right. So maybe that is maybe it's an accuracy thing, maybe it's a communication thing. I don't know. But at the end of the day, it definitely is a better experience. This edition of MacVoices is sponsored by Smile. Smile has upgraded PDF Pen for iPhone and iPad to version 3. And that's exciting news if you use your iPhone or iPad as a productivity device. With the new PDF Pen 3, you can manage your documents just like in the new Files app. Drag and drop documents into place, create new folders, and share multiple documents at once using the Select command. Use Files to import, export, and organize your PDFs. And no matter where you like to store your files, Smile and PDF Pen 3 have you covered, with support for iCloud Drive, Google Drive, Microsoft OneNote, and many other Files-compatible apps. And you might think it's a small thing, but it isn't. PDF Pen 3 has updated highlight colors to help you make the notations you want to make the way you want to make them. Don't forget that PDF Pen 3 on iPhone and iPad goes hand in hand with PDF Pen 9 on the Mac, so that you can access, edit, and share your PDFs no matter where you are, no matter where they are, and no matter what device you have in hand at the moment. If you're running iOS 11, and who isn't, then you need to see what the wizards at Smile have cooked up for you in PDF Pen 3. It has and deserves a place on my home screen because of its power, flexibility, and usefulness. And it should be on your home screen too, on both your iPhone and your iPad. PDF Pen 3 for iPhone and iPad is available in the App Store for $19.99. Get it now and take control of all those PDF documents you have floating around and do more with them. That's PDF Pen 3 for iPhone and iPad from Smile, the makers of world-class software. Check out all their great productivity apps, including Text Expander for Mac, iPhone and iPad, and PDF Pen Scan Plus for iPhone and iPad, at smilesoftware.com. Thanks to Smile for being the longest-running sponsor of MacVoices.
Well, I can tell you one thing. I had upgraded to watchOS 4, one of the late betas, before I got this watch. And for about 3 weeks, I was using the old watch with watchOS 4 on the original watch. And I just found that it was still very slow in responding. So it has to be a processor improvement and possibly maybe a better microphone, better digital signal processing, whatever. But it's much improved.
Yeah. One thing that has really surprised me, and you all know I don't live exactly in a tech-centric part of the country, is the number of people that somehow are able to spot that little red dot and say, is that an Apple Watch Series 3? And it's like, well, yes, actually it is. And they start asking me about how I like it, what's different about it and all that. And it's like, how did you see that on my, on my wrist? I mean, it might, I would think it might be a little more visible on one of the gold watches or something, but so people are really still paying attention to the tech that you're carrying or what you're using, and they're not bashful about asking about it.
That red dot is the thing that finally pushed me away from the LTE version. Not that I am completely. I guess I care about fashion, but maybe my fashion sense isn't the greatest. But I do have several bands for the Apple Watch, and I've gotten quite a few third-party bands. There's a lot of really good options out there. I got a link bracelet that matches the sport gray aluminum from a company called Monoware. I got a leather band from Bexar Leather Goods. So I've got some really nice bands, and I really think that the space gray aluminum watch looks great, and you can wear it a lot of different occasions. But the red dot doesn't jive with a lot of stuff in my wardrobe. Not that it's a wardrobe necessarily decision, but just knowing that I can never change this. It's always going to be there. Yeah, I could buy a sticker or something and put it over it. But
I was just going to say, there's, first day, I don't know how many companies got press releases from saying, we're coming up with small stickers that you can put over the red dot.
Yeah, I don't get it, because like you said, it's very visible. Everybody notices it, and if red isn't in your outfit, it's not gonna look good, in my opinion. And I get that. I guess from a watch perspective, typically there is some sort of red demarcation to indicate that this is a quote unquote addition, or it's a upgraded version. I guess I'm just not enough of a watch guy where that just rubbed me the wrong way.
That's interesting. I mean, it really didn't make a difference to me, just because I don't know. I mean, I guess I wear enough red that I wasn't offended by it. But just the idea that, I mean, it's not, okay, so it's red, and I'll do my best to get a little close up here. It's red, but it's not that obtrusive. And I'm not sure if I saw either one of you gentlemen, in a bar or a restaurant somewhere, that I'd be able to really ascertain. Maybe if I really looked down and looked hard. And that's what's been so surprising about it. It was one thing to have your iPhone out when the iPhones were new and have people come up and ask you about them. But it's a whole other one to somebody to be looking carefully at your wrist and say, hey, I don't get it.
I agree. And I don't think that it's that I don't think it's really that big a deal as maybe I portrayed it initially. But it's in my brain, what it did first reaction when I saw that was, I can never change that. I don't think I like that. So, and Apple's products are very beautifully designed. They've got very great, no matter what color you get for an iPhone, it's going to look awesome. And the red just stands in stark contrast to pretty much anything that you can buy other than the white ceramic, in my opinion.
Yeah, it is a little bit odd, because it would almost be like putting a red power button on an iPhone.
Yeah, exactly. It's a great analogy.
It just stands out, and I don't know. It is a little odd. But one thing I have noticed, since the Apple Watch came out, originally back in 2015, I was getting a lot of, is that an Apple Watch? Because it was rare to see them actually in the wild. Then I started seeing a lot more people wearing them. You'd go to the grocery store, go to church, go to a movie, whatever, and you'd see, somebody would lift up their watch and it would glow and go, oh, an Apple Watch. And but I have to laugh about this because I've noticed at the grocery store, for some strange reason, there are a lot of checkers who use the Apple Watch. And since I got this watch, I've had probably 3 different checkers at the same store ask, is that the Apple Watch Series 3? So obviously, I think people do keep up with the news about these things. They know what the differences are. Because they have one, they're interested in, seeing what's new and what's different. And like in all 3 cases, people have asked, well, is it faster? Does it get better battery life? And I've been able to say, yeah, it does. So in a way, it's almost like a little identifier. I do caution them, though, that the one case where I found that my battery life does suffer is when I'm using this to make phone calls without the phone, without the iPhone. And which is a little bit interesting. I think Apple realized that not a lot of people are going to spend or use this as their sole, smartphone, so to speak, that most of them will have an iPhone with them at least part of the time. But that's been the one case where I have noticed that it will suck down the battery a bit. Other than that, I'd say the battery life in a normal use case around my office and doing errands is about twice what I was getting from my previous watch.
Yeah,
at least twice.
Mine is probably more than that. It's 7 p.m. where I am. I went for a 6-mile run today, and I have 71% battery left, which is incredible when you think about it. I'm used to charging it every night. I probably still will charge it every night, but I think that a real killer use case for a device like an Apple Watch is a sleep tracker for people who are really serious about health. And I think that they are getting very, very close to being able to do that on the Apple Watch. That's exciting to me.
And I just looked at mine and I'm at 89%. So it's getting better battery life than I thought.
Well, actually, Mike, I do use mine with the sleep tracking app because I wear it to sleep. What I found, and it's a testament to the battery life and to, I guess, the charging capacity too, that when I get up in the morning, I take the watch off and I put it on the charger while I'm in the shower. Come out, get dressed, put the Apple Watch back on, and I've got more than enough juice. I mean, it's not like, okay, so on the 4th or 5th day, I have to say, okay, tonight I can't track my sleep or, with the watch. That's my normal day. Some days I have, depending on what I've been doing with it or how I've been using it. Yeah, some days it's chewed up more battery than others, but for the most part, I've had no issues at all.
That's interesting.
Just curious. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Mike.
I was going to say one thing that I've considered, because you cannot get much for an original Apple Watch, and you can't even use a service like Gazelle. They published something in like 2015 saying soon you're going to be able to sell your watch to Gazelle, but you still can't. So I have this watch and I'm like, well, I can't sell it. Maybe I'll just use this for sleep tracking. Just switch the watches when I get up.
Actually, you can sell them, and I got a really good price for mine. There's a company called Decluttr, and I was able to sell my original one in pretty darn good condition for $120.
Oh, wow.
So decluttr.com, it's spelled weird. I think it's without the last E, decluttr, and excellent service. I was just very impressed with them.
I think I saw that, Steve, and I'm glad to know that. I'm glad to have a testimonial about it. Not that they're a supporter or advertiser, but just you're about to. I mean, even though it's not worth a lot, and even though you otherwise are going to sit it in a drawer somewhere, you still hate to just send it off into the ether and have it disappear. So it's good to know.
Yeah.
It's good to know. I'm curious. So should it surprise any of us that using it as a phone would suck down the battery? I mean, doesn't that kind of go without saying?
No, I think that does go without saying. What surprises me is that phone companies can charge the same amount for the limited time that you're using that cellular data as they can for your iPad, which you can literally work all day from using that cellular data. So I don't know how all that works. I understand it's another connection point on the network, but it just does not sit right with me that it's the same $10 a month as a cellular iPad.
Amen.
And it even has the same phone number as your iPhone.
Exactly.
So it's not as if they have to, create another number and use up another number. So
yeah,
that's insane.
Yeah. So, I know, Mike, you already outlined that you have a number of bands. And I'm curious, Steve, because whenever the Apple Watch topic comes up, you have to ask about watch bands. So did you upgrade to a third-party band, Steve, or did you use what it came with?
No, and I found my perfect band. I mean, I have a drawer full of bands over here. I no longer have the original band that came with my, and that was the black fluoro elastomer band from Apple that came with the original Smartwatch. But I've got leather bands. I've got other sport bands. I have, you name it. I even have a faux, Milanese loop. And all of them, to one point or another, have had something about them that I didn't like. I ended up trying the new Sport Loop, and I'm going to show you right here. This is what they refer to as the olive green Sport Loop. I love the Sport Loop. It's the first time I've been able to put on my Apple Watch, basically just put it on and tighten it up with one hand and not be sitting there going, doing this dance to try to get the band on. I love this band. It doesn't feel clammy the way when you get really warm, the way the elastomer band did. I think it was one of their better bands that they've come up with. I don't think I'm going to be using any third-party bands for a while. I really like this one.
Now, is that like a cloth-like material, Steve?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
It's I think it's a nylon, and believe it or not, it uses Velcro, or, a hook and loop type material to make the connection on there. So it's really easy to adjust. It never seems to lose its, whatever tightness you put it at. I've just been really, really happy with it.
I've heard lots of good things about that band. If I were to buy another one, that's definitely the one that I would get.
Yeah, it's definitely a double thumbs up. I'm thinking of buying another one of these just so I have a spare, just in case.
I'm embarrassed to admit it, but I'll go ahead. That I bought this early when the first Apple Watch came out. I spent the money for the Apple leather loop, and it is what has been on my wrist ever since. I've bought some knockoffs. I have a blue one and a red one, but I love this design. I love the magnet part of it. That, Steve, to your point, I can pull it tight. I can loosen it up if I want. It can go on and off with one hand. You're right. You're not there doing the little watch dance that we often fight with. It just is. It was a ridiculous amount of money to spend for a watch band, but I've absolutely, and it doesn't. There's no tears in it. There's nothing. So there is something to be said for buying quality if you're not a watch fashion crazy person and are going to buy a dozen of them.
Chuck, knowing that you are of a similar age to me, I think you might be a little bit younger, but I don't know. But anyway, you do remember the old ads for the Spidell Twistoflex, and you do know that there is a Spidell Twistoflex watch band for Apple Watch now.
I did not know that. Really?
Remember the Spidell Twistoflex?
Yeah, I think I was in kindergarten. Yeah. Yeah, you sold you right down the river, Steve.
Yeah. Boom.
Yeah. Actually, I do remember those, though. And I did not know there was one. It doesn't surprise me that there'd be one for the Apple Watch.
Well, I'm not going to buy one, but I just thought it was so weird that something from my childhood has come back to haunt us in the modern age here. Personally, I tried one of those metal type bands, like that, expanding bands, on a previous watch, and I hated the way it was constantly grabbing at arm hairs. I don't want to be disgusting, but it was bad.
So we've danced all around this. Steve, you're the only one of us that can talk about it. How is the phone call experience on the Apple Watch?
Good.
Is it?
In fact, yeah. In fact, and I don't know, once again, if this is a change because of, how am I trying to say this? If it's a change due to the fact that the phone is now able to really, or excuse me, the watch is able to pick up voices a lot better and do a lot better digital signal processing, or if it's just that, I don't know. Basically, the phone calls sound a lot better. I used to answer a lot of phone calls. I'd be driving and somebody would call, and I'd answer, because it's much easier. You tap on there and you answer the phone call. And I always found that there was a lot of echo. People would say, "Could you please repeat that? You're breaking up." I don't get that with this. And that's in both cases using with an iPhone, next to me, and in those situations where I don't have an iPhone nearby. So they've definitely done a good job of being able to do that. I think the voice quality is incredibly good.
Mike, I know that you don't have the LTE, neither do I, but do you take calls on your watch by choice or out of necessity at any time?
I try not to. My wife has an Apple Watch, and she'll frequently answer on her watch when she's doing something in the kitchen or just can't actually grab her phone. And it's always been very apparent to me whenever she answers on her watch. It's very hard to hear her, and she has a hard time hearing me. But she has an original Apple Watch as well, so I have no doubt that the call quality is vastly improved.
Yeah, again, it's now the third one out there. So you would think that some of this stuff they figured out different things, and and even in just that short period of time, the tech gets better.
A lot of the time, I try to be inconspicuous when I'm on my phone, and with the watch. Unless you have your AirPods paired to it or something like that, you're going to have the audio coming back from the watch, and I'm just never in an environment where I want that speakerphone type effect.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. But there are times, I don't mind telling this story. This is going to sound a little crazy, so I need to explain it. But the first time I took a call on my Apple Watch, I was underneath my bed trying to reach a plug and plug something in. And I'm, and of course it always happens, you're in the worst possible place. The phone is somewhere else. You can't, and I thought, hey, try it. And I had a conversation with someone, and I don't know how I sounded to them, but they sounded fine to me, and I never told them. And, so it is those situations. You just, okay, well, I'll try it and see what happens. And so
you didn't tell them that I'm under my bed right now.
No, I shouldn't have told it here, but I'm telling you, I wasn't doing anything bad, and I wasn't hiding from anything. It's just there's a plug. You know how it is.
Plug
again,
something in.
You got to get under there and do it. And so,
one thing I do quite a bit is I will record using the Drafts app on my watch especially when I'm out for a run or something, and I'm listening to an audiobook or a podcast. And I want to remember something. I will use Siri to capture it, even while I'm breathing hard in the middle of downtown, whatever. It has no trouble picking up what I'm saying, and I've always been very impressed with Siri's capability in terms of just voice capture.
Yeah, now I haven't tried that on the Drafts app for the watch yet. That's interesting.
I've actually used. In fact, it's funny because I ended up switching text editors because I saw this announcement. Are you guys familiar with Bear, which is a cross-platform? Mm-hmm. Well, it was interesting because they came out with this little note that, we now have a Apple Watch app. And I thought, yeah, right, And what it will do is show you the 10 most recent notes that you've got out there. And you can create new notes by tapping this button and using dictation. And so I'm thinking, yeah, right, this is not going to work. Tried it out, absolutely loved it. Well, of course, it synchronizes that, to kind of iCloud, through the iPhone app. So, of course, I had to get the iPhone app. And then I tried it on my Mac, and now I'm hooked. And in fact, I just did a review of the app today. I absolutely love it. And I don't know how many times in the past 2 weeks, where I've had a situation, I needed to take a note. I didn't have my phone with me. On the run, you're walking down a hall or something like that, and you just go, tap, new note, start talking. And the same type of thing, like you're talking about with drafts. Love it. Really a good use case for these things.
Yeah, Bear is a great application. And I think that specific use case, that kind of highlights the strength of the Apple Watch. I think, it's been around long enough now that developers have kind of got the hang of it. But I remember when I first got mine, I forget which email application it was, but they had built in the ability to actually read your email on your watch and respond. And I was like, why? But I think for you're thinking of something, you just need to jot down a reminder, whether that is an actual reminder or a task or whatever. I think that it's great for that.
Now, I'm curious for both of you, because Mike, you use drafts, Steve, you use Bear. Are we talking about the quick little notes, or are we talking about something, not War and Peace, but are we talking something a little more substantial?
Bear could be used for any size writing project. It's a really powerful application. Drafts is specifically just, I've got this idea, one quick thing, I want to jot it down. And Drafts actually has a feature where every time you open it, it opens to a blank new draft. So if you're going to add things to another note, it's actually a little bit harder to do that. It's basically an inbox for all of the text-based pieces that are going to come at you that you want to put somewhere else. And they've got actions to send them to your task manager, or if you wanted to capture text, they bill it as the starting place for text on iOS. So if you wanted to capture something you wanted to share on social media, you can capture into drafts, and then with one action, you can send it to 5 different social media accounts at the same time. It's a productivity nerd's dream.
And we're talking to a productivity nerd. So
yeah, I was going to say.
There you go.
Needless.
There you go. Guys, any other apps that you feel, and we've outlined several here, but anything that jumps out at you that we haven't talked about that you're suddenly using a lot more or a lot more effectively on the new Series 3?
I really like the OmniFocus app. I feel even on the original Apple Watch, it was designed well. It's not designed to give you the full power of OmniFocus. It's designed to give you your task list, and you can check things off from your watch. I think that's another really good use case for the watch, but on a Series 3, it is much, much, much more usable. One application that I would love to see on an Apple Watch, and I don't think the technology is quite there to do this. So Steve, maybe you can kind of explain your experience with this, or maybe you figured out some way, but if there was a way to stream podcasts to your Apple Watch, I'd buy LTE in a second. But I don't believe there is right now. You can stream Apple Music. I don't listen to a whole lot of music, though.
I keep thinking that and I may be absolutely wrong, but I keep thinking that one of the third-party apps did figure out a way of doing this, but I may be just dreaming. Maybe it was a wild dream. But I agree. That would be a really good situation because, right now, the one thing I cannot do if I go out for a walk or a hike is listen to podcasts. I still need to have the iPhone with me, and that would be absolutely fantastic, being able to just say, I want to listen to one of my favorite podcasts for about the past 12 years, I think has been one called The Podcacher, and it's for geocaching, and it's done by this couple that lives out in San Diego. Wonderful podcast. They've just done a wonderful job ever since day one, and I love listening to that podcast. I still listen to it, and I'm kind of missing that right now. So hopefully somebody has an app that'll allow us to do that.
I was just looking. I've got Downcast on my phone, but I think that's only pulling from my iPhone. I don't think that I'm not sure. I don't think I can load podcasts onto my phone. I mean, I guess if you jump through some hoops, you could load them as MP3s.
Yeah, you can. There's workarounds for it, I know. But Marco Arment, the developer of Overcast, I know, just published a post not too long ago, basically complaining about the fact that he can't really make Overcast usable on the the Apple Watch.
Boo.
I think that there's probably some sort. I mean, this is classic Apple though, where they're going to give that sort of functionality to the system apps first, and they're going to nail it, and then the next year they're going to open it up to third parties. But that's the thing that's really missing for me right now.
Okay, Steve, how about you? Anything that you would that you feel like you just all of a sudden are using so much more, other than Bear?
Other than Bear, I've been using that way too much. One thing I think I have been using quite a bit more is, normally I was getting, with the old watch, I would not try to do things like set appointments, add calendar items and things like that using Siri, simply because it was so hit and miss with the first generation. What I'm finding is that I'm using a lot more of the built-in apps, to set reminders. Remind me to, call Chuck Joyner when I get home, that type of thing. Things that I wasn't doing because I had such a bad experience, I am using now. So I guess it wouldn't be any specific app, just a lot of the built-in applications for the Apple Watch.
Yeah, and I would say that that's probably my primary use case, and it's through Siri. That, add it to my calendar or remind me of this, and especially remind me at a certain time, or remind me in 5 minutes that we're going to record a podcast. Because, you sit down and you think, okay, I can get that one more article read, or that one more couple emails, and then all of a sudden it's 15 minutes later. So it is surprising. I think it's like, at least for me, it's been like so many other things, even after 2 years. You have to remember that the capabilities are there. Once you sort of integrate them into your workflow, then, okay, now you can start to evaluate which is the best option. And you've both made me go back and look at Drafts and Bear again. Thank you. But, on the other hand, it should definitely make me more productive. So
I think the killer app for the watch is simply Siri. And I think that the fact that Siri can talk back to you now is a much bigger deal than people realize. Because if you think about the fact that you have this thing on your wrist where literally whatever you're doing, you can have Siri do something for you. Now you don't have to look at your watch to get feedback that it actually heard you correctly. So for all of the complaints that people have against Siri, not as good as Alexa or whatever, it actually can do quite a bit. And the ability for it to speak back to you, say, okay, I got it, that's just going to make it much, much more usable for the average person, I believe.
Yeah, and no offense to pCalc, but right now Siri is my favorite calculator, because I can just, ask her what's 42.83 times 23.654, and she reads me the answer, and I can type it out without having to look at anything. It's a wonderful time saver. I know it sounds stupid, but I don't know how many times a day I use. Used to pull up the Mac calculator. Then I started using Siri on the Mac, which still required me to go up and click on that damned icon up there and look at it. Well, she would read the answer. But I'm finding this to be a lot more usable.
Yeah. And sometimes it's the little things. Sure, you would love to say, boy, I've had this quantum leap because of the Apple Watch Series 3. But, it's the little things. For me, I don't have to pull the phone out of my pocket. I can be in a meeting. I get a message. I get a notification that I want, because I too have trimmed down my notifications a lot. But it's like, okay, thanks for the reminder, or somebody's texted me with something, and I can decide whether it's necessary to respond or not. But it's information on your wrist, and I think for me that's the best reason to buy it. So I gather everybody here is happy with their purchase?
Yeah,
Very
I
much
like
so.
it a lot. I liked my original Apple Watch a lot because that's really what got me focused on fitness. I love that ad that they showed in the keynote with all the different people reading the letters about how it positively impacted their life, because
Yeah.
that's me. I didn't run at all before I got my Apple Watch and signed up for a half marathon.
That's great.
But the thing with the Series 3 is that it has made all of my interactions with the watch, which again, it accomplished its purpose previously, but now everything is snappy. It feels so much better. It is a more pleasant user experience. And I think that the more experiences you have with your technology, and Apple's always been good at this, is like you look at something and you're like, wow, I didn't know it could do that. I remember when I first got my Mac and I had iChat or something, and I was dragging a file over the window and I saw the green plus icon appear, and it's like, whoa, my mind is blown. The first time you see some of those animations on a Series 3 coming from a Series 0, it's like, oh, hey, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it sounds like we all have thumbs up for the Series 3. I like
Definitely.
it. I like it.
Double thumbs up here.
Okay, so folks, go out and join us. Get a Series 3 and then check out the watch bands and check out Bear and check out drafts and check out everything we talked about. Hopefully we've given you... Steve.
I was going to say the one thing I'd really like to see, and maybe it's going to be the Series 5, when they've gotten the Mr. Fusion built into the device. But I really, really want to be able to do Skype calls from my wrist.
Oh, yeah.
Or at least FaceTime. One of the two.
FaceTime. Yeah.
FaceTime.
Yeah. You would dare say that to me after the day we've had trying to get this together? Jeez. Wow. But folks, you heard it here first. Nuclear reactions on your wrist, thanks to Steve Sande.
You heard it here first.
Guys, I want to make sure we let people know where else they can find you when you're not here serving on the MacJury, because I know both of you are kind of busy. Mike?
You can find me on The Productivity Show at theproductivityshow.com. It's the Agent Efficiency podcast, so you can check out Agent Efficiency at agentefficiency.com. I also create video tutorials for Screencasts Online, so you can check out some of my work at Screencasts Online as well.
Great. I have to say about the Productivity Show, I listen to it, and I always come away feeling inadequate. It's like, man, I got to implement some of this stuff.
Well, the thing about productivity is that if you find even one thing that you can implement to make tomorrow better, it's a success. You don't have to do it all.
Okay. Thank you. I'll feel a little better the next time I listen. Yeah. Thanks so much for being here, Mike. It's good to see you.
Absolutely.
Steve?
I can be found at appleworld.today. That's Apple World Today. I also do some writing over at, if people are familiar with OWC and the MacSales.com website, you can also find me over at blog.macsales.com.
Great. Good to see you, my friend. We haven't connected for a while. Seems like you're
It's been a while.
Yeah, you're always running around all the world. So,
Somebody's got to do it.
Well, you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. My Apple Watch and I will see you next time. I do want to make the one quick note here. As some of you may have seen on a briefing I did a little while ago, my Twitter account was hacked. And I'm still trying to get it restored, but not having much success. So at least in the interim, and perhaps for good, I'll invite you to follow me at twitter.com/ChuckJoyner2. That's the number 2. That's the new account. If I do get the original one back, I'll probably just put this one in mothballs. But definitely just to keep up to date on things. And if you followed me before, please follow me again.
So you're the new improved Chuck Joyner version 2.
I am the educated.
Was the real Chuck Joyner taken?
I thought about that, but that seems a little egotistical. So I decided not to do that. No. Until the next time, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes, links to subscribe, and to connect with Chuck on Twitter, Google+, Facebook, YouTube, Vimeo, SoundCloud, the MacVoices blog, the MacVoices Dispatch, our weekly newsletter, and on MacVoices magazine, free on Flipboard that helps you do more with your Apple tech. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.